Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are taking up the Sutra 1.32, which comes after the topic of antarayas and after the topic of Ishvara Pranidhana. But actually, the topic of Ishvara still continues in the sutra. Tatpratis ekatattvabhyasa. Ekatattvabhyasa. The tattvam can still be related to Ishvara. Ishvara is a tattva. Ishvara is a principle. And of course, we were considering the practice of Ishvara tattva in Ishvara Pranidhana. And then we saw the effects of practice on Ishvara tattva. And then there came the obstacle topic, and that's how we covered it. Now, ekatattvabhyasa comes here in this sutra in a way tat-pratishedhartham. Tat-pratishedhartham means pratishedhartham of that. Pratishedham means a strategy to be countering. Countering what? Countering the antarayas and sahabhuva, sahachara, the dukkhadi. So tat pratishedhartham, in order to counter that, ekatattvabhyasa is being mentioned here. So in simple words, to counter the vyadhi adi navantarayas, vyadhi sthana samshayadi navantarayas, and then their accompanying factors dukkha daurmanasya adi, dukkha daurmanasya, etc., sorrow, despair, etc., their pratishedha, the protesting them, countering them, the upaya is ekatattva-abhyasa. So, as I said during the last session, that this has been very simplistically taken. This sutra has been very simplistically taken, that which is an advice for you and me, we commoners, because we tend to give up if we are finding these obstacles formidable, coming often. Then we worldly people have habit of saying goodbye. So, or we will be like rolling stones, try something else, or give up, once again take up, give up, once again take up, give up. If you read the human mind, there's so many times it so happens that we want to take something, take up something, pursue something. After a while, when we counter difficulties, when we see that we are not progressing, we are not getting encouraging results, then we give up. But then again give up for a while, and then I once again take it up. So, taking up, giving up, taking up, giving up, this is also human tendency. Like we come across in very strange human world and world of human psyche, that people divorce, and the divorcement is revoked, and once again the same couple comes together. Again divorces after some dogfight, and once again the couple reunites. It's not that once divorced somebody marries someone else. This is generally the case. But there are instances where the same two people have divorced and revoked the divorce and united once again after a while divorce, and again after a while reunite. So human world is really bizarre. Human psyche is unpredictable. But then, if not in that case so much frequently happening, but there are so many endeavors. We take up, we give up, we again take up, we again give up, we again take up, we again give up. So we have a starter and we have a restarter. This is human mind. There are many endeavors where we have been having this kind of condition in our mind, or we are rolling stones. Let me try something else. Let me try the same thing in a different wrapper sometimes. So that's a rolling stone like thing. Either we keep on rolling, try so many things in life. How many things have we not tried in life? Just try to take an account. So far, how many things have we not tried? And how many things with which we have persevered and persisted? Most of the things we have taken up with some fervor, enthusiasm, interest, and then given up. So we are very good starters. We start so many things in our life. This is typical of human mind. So there is a tendency to be rolling stone like, and we keep on rolling from one thing to the other thing. So usually the advice is given, and we think Patanjali has given similar advice that we should not be rolling stones. We should not be adhering to the tendency or habit of taking and giving up, taking and giving up, taking and giving up, retaking and re-giving up. So we become fugitive. We try so many things, different things, or come back to it often. We often take breaks. This is another habit of human psyche, that we won't break for a while. So we take breaks and then revoke the break. So that's why many times we get advice from wiser people. There is nothing like persistence, perseverance. Persist and persevere. Do not be oscillating in your minds. But this advice can be given by any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Why do we want Patanjali to give this advice? You and me also can give this advice, that do not be a rolling stone, do not lose your heart, have steadfastness, have constancy, have perseverance. So this advice can be given by you and me as well, and we do that. Why do we need Patanjali to give this advice? But as I said even during the last session, this is how the sutra has been interpreted. Now, moreover, you should not lose the bearing that this chapter is Samadhipada. This chapter is for uttamadhikari, and uttamadhikari should not be needing these advices. And the one is no more uttamadhikari if this oscillating mind is there. If the mind is dipping and dipping, dimming and dipping, that's not the human mind of uttamadhikari. It is your case and my case. Some days we have a lot of fervor, on days we are not enthused, we have less fever, we need push and pull. But here the reference is to uttamadhikari, and therefore the sutra cannot be interpreted in such a simplistic manner, but which has been done. Uh, Basically, we don't need Patanjali to say this. Persist, persevere, have constancy, have steadfastness, don't lose your heart. So, therefore, this is not really the essential purport of the sutra. Such advices are required for you and me. And any Tom, Dick, and Harry can give such advices to you and me. We don't need Patanjali to give this advice. And Patanjali need not be giving this advice. Patanjali will not give this advice. So, therefore, there is some other purport of the sutra here, purport for the sutra here. This is a yoga anushasanam for uttamadhikari. So you can understand the level of discipline, the level of the culture of mind, which is well disposed to be doing yoga. And therefore the obstacles will not shake a uttamadhikari. Because yogi will be like a Gibraltar rock. And these Vyadhis can come and bang on it. But it will be just like the ocean waves which hit the Gibraltar rock. Nothing happens to Gibraltar rock. The waves come and dash and go back. So, totally there is a different purport to this sutra. And that is why we need to look into Vyasa's comment as to what is really the purport here. Yes, Tatpratis, no doubt about it, yes. But ekatattvabhyasa, not eka-abhyasa, not the same abhyas constantly. We need to stick to a principle, not stick to practice, but stick to practice which is towards a principle, which is on a principle, which is for a principle. So that is what the sutra is trying to tell us. Basically, here if you take view of the whole topic that has preceded, it is pranava japa. Pranava japa anushtanam. Pranava japopasana. It is pranavopasana. Uttamadhikari has taken recourse to pranavopasana, which is his means of Ishvara pranidhana. So, it is sticking to that principle because there is artha bhavana. So, the yogi here knows that pranava is not just a syllable. Om is not just a letter, but Om is a tattva. Om is a principle because it is nomenclature of Ishvara. It is complete description of Ishvara. Ishvara himself is a principle, and therefore pranava is depicting his quintessential characteristic. Prakarshena nuyata stuyata. So it is the best description of Ishvara, and it's the best praise eulogy to Ishvara. So Ishvara itself is principle, and tasya vachaka pranavaha. So when its vachaka is pranava, that means Ishvara and pranava are not two different things. They are one and the same thing. Ishvara himself is pranava, pranava itself is Ishvara. That's the vachya vachaka sambandham which we had seen earlier. Oh, if Ishvara is principle, pranava is a principle. So, yogi is not just in pranava japa. Pranava for him is principle, and he has the abhyasa, which is woven around the principle. And therefore, it is a tattvabhyasa, pranava-tattvabhyasa, ishvara-tattvabhyasa, and then that is actually only eka-tattvam, that is only really the tattva. And that is ekatattvabhyasa. So it had already commenced as ekatattvabhyasa when Patanjali said, Ishvara pranidhanad va. And then he described Ishvara. So, Ishvara itself is tattva, pranava itself is tattva, and pranava tattvavalambanam, pranava tattvabhyasa is what this yogi is in. We may do pranava japa, but uttamadhikari's pranava japa will be of the nature of tattvabhyasa, tattva-dhyana. So he will be in the dhyanam of that tattva. And therefore, Patanjali reiterates eka-tattvabhyasa in the sutra. Then there can be an argument that uttamadhikari should not be or need not be needing any advice. If uttamadhikari also needs advice, that means he is not uttamadhikari or one is not uttamadhikari. So this point of rebuke is also worth considering. Yeah, it is true in one sense that the yogi on supreme hierarchy need not be needing any advice. Then why is this advice? The yogi is on Himalayan heights of consciousness. Then he should not be needing any counseling. And this sutra seems to be a counseling. Then is Patanjali really meaning to give a counseling to this the uttamadhikari, that don't lose your heart, continue, persevere, persist, have steadfastness? Therefore, this is not an advice. Patanjali doesn't mean to advise. Then why is he saying this? Tat pratishedhartham ekatattvabhyasa. And you will come to know why Patanjali has brought in this sutra if you peep into Vyasa Bhashya. So, the background is like this. Patanjali has mentioned dhyanam on pranava. So that will be dhyanam on Ishvara. It is dhyanaja japa. It is not japa in the sense you and me might do it. So, Patanjali has postulated it is dhyana. Ishvara pranidhana is dhyanaja japa. Understand, our bhakti to divinity and bhakti of Jnaneshwars and Tukarams and Kabirs, their bhakti to divinity. They were all bhaktas. Prahlada, Narada, Parashar, Pundarika, Vyasambharisha, starting from there, to Kabir, Tulsidas, Jnaneshwar, Eknath, Tukaram, Namdev, Ramdas, they were all bhaktas. But what is our bhakti and what is their bhakti? There is ocean of difference. So, Patanjali has postulated meditative and dhyanaja japa for uttamadhikari in this samadhipada. Now, in Patanjali's time, first of all, understand, we all know that we have Hindu dharma, we have Christianity, we have various dharmas, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, etc., etc. We cannot be understanding the dharma, religion, or pantha looking at what it is today. So, here Patanjali is actually countering a very strong opponent during that time, and that is Buddhist philosopher. Now, in Buddhist philosophy, which I told you last time, there are tenets embracing momentarism called kshanikavada, nihilism called vinashavada, or shunyavad. So these philosophies were quite prominently there. When there was no Buddhism. Buddhism is a later development. So Buddhist philosophy was there. And that philosophy was postulating such tenets. And they were very strong opponents in classical times. Therefore, if you have little understanding, historical understanding of Nyaya Darshana, Vaisheshika Darshana, Sankhya Darshana, Yoga Darshana, Mimamsa Darshana, Vedanta Darshana, they had major opponent to be countered. That was Buddha, Bauddha Tattvajnana. There was no Buddhism 2500 years back. Buddhism is there today. It has become ism today. There was no ism 2500 years back. But there was Buddha's philosophy, quite strong, quite effulgent, and quite influencing the human psyche, the people of those times. According to their philosophy, Patanjali's postulation that pranava japa, pranava dhyana, ishvara dhyana itself was getting detonating by their precepts. And therefore, it was essential for Patanjali to have an encounter with them, refute their stance, and reinforce the orthodox philosophy's position. And that is why the sutra has come here. Because he has postulated dhyana. Pranava japa, which is mentioned in the first Samadhipada, first chapter, is not japa that we might imagine of om, 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 om. This would be our pranava japa. Or om, 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 om. So that would be pranava japa for us. So there is oratory act. Oratory parts are involved. And then the sound of om, nada of om. If it is done mentally, of course, oratory organ will be replaced by mental organ. It will be by mind. Mind will be silently within itself uttering om. So oratory parts and sound effects are not there. So this is our idea of japa. This is uttamadhikari. The uttamadhikari would be in dhyanaja japa. It would be dhyanam for him. He will go into dhyana and he will do that pranava japa in dhyana. And Buddhist philosophers had such tenets that they would not accept this steadfastness of the mind, the constancy of the mind. So their philosophies posited that the mind is fugitive, any object of the mind is fugitive, the mind is ephemeral, mind is momentary, the mind is always new mind, and there is always a flow of mind like a flow of river, and therefore the mind really cannot be sticking to a principle, because the mind itself doesn't stay there. Every moment it's a new mind. Like river flowing, the water, you cannot get the same water and see in same location second time, because the water will have flown. You will have to catch the same water by going a little faster pace of water flow of the river. Then perhaps you can get little to advanced position and there you can catch the water. So they say mind itself is momentary. And if the mind is living for only one moment, therefore they were called momentarists. They say everything is just there for one moment. Previous moment that was not there, next moment it is not going to be there. So when Patanjali postulated Dhyanam, they could not tolerate it. They said this is impossible, this is weird, because mind is momentary, everything is momentary, things are momentary. See, if you are given a bowl of ice cream and you are taking your ice cream with spoon, and then you say, this ice cream I am taking it for last 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But minute investigation will tell you that it is not the same ice cream. The first morsel of ice cream, which has gone into your mouth and then into the belly, by the time you pick up the second one, it's a different ice cream, because the ice cream is undergoing a change and vicissitude and transformation. You cannot be having the same ice cream. So it would be different ice cream in your second morsel, different ice cream in your third morsel, and therefore it won't be same ice cream. Whereas we claim that I am eating this ice cream for last 2, 3, 5 minutes. But the ice cream is transforming. If you keep the ice cream like that, what will happen? You know, it transforms, it changes. It will get liquidified. So it is changing to become softer and softer and softer and then watery. So also it is going for mutation. If we do not keep the ice cream in fridge, what will happen to it? It will not only melt, it will also become rotten. Because after all, it is milk product. How long the milk remains the same? So milk is constantly changing. Therefore, we have a concept of fresh milk and stale milk, fresh curds and stale curds, fresh food and stale food. So the mind is ever changing. It cannot therefore be sticking to same object. And that's why they have a position which detonates the concept of Dhyanam. And therefore Patanjali has brought this to refute their positions. So basically, it may be bitter for the people of modern mind. They might say this is intolerance. It is not intolerance. It is to postulate truth that Patanjali has embarked upon, refuting Buddhism. In the sense, not ism, Buddhist philosophical tenets. Because I told you that there was no ism 2,500 years back. Let me tell you about a strange fact. The Buddhists actually were atheists. They did not accept Atma. They were Nastikas. They did not accept the entity of Atma, entity of Bhagavan, entity of Ishvara. And therefore, they did not endorse with any puja, archa, yajanam, yajanam. So they did not endorse with this. Therefore, they were heterodox philosophers. But a time later came up. The Gautama Buddha, 2500 years or more back, when he said there is nothing that should be worshipped, there is no worship, nothing to be worshipped, and there is no Bhagwan, Ishvara, Brahma-tattva to be worshipped. But when he postulated that philosophy, soon it's human mind. The human mind started calling him himself Bhagwan. So he became later Bhagavan Gautam Buddha. And then they started worshipping him because human mind could not do without worship. And therefore they made him object of worship, who himself postulated that there is nothing like worship and nothing should be worshipped. But he himself became a god. One who was refuting God, he himself became God. Soon after his nirvana, he became God. And now he is still a god for what we have today, Buddhism. It became ism. After some centuries, there was dawn of Buddhism. Buddha himself did not bring the ism. It is his followers who brought Buddhism. So that's the historical background. That's not in our syllabus here. But however, it should be known. The history should be known. That's why I'm telling you that these were the people who refuted God, argued that there is no God, proved that there is no God for their clans, their followers, but later they themselves became God, who were atheists, nirishwaravadis. They themselves became gods, and today they are gods. To the followers of that ism, he is therefore called Bhagavan Buddha. Buddha 2500 years back did not accept any Bhagavan, but he himself became Bhagavan. That is, people made him Bhagavan. If Bhagavan is not there, people will make him. That's why there is a concept that Ishvara is anthropomorphic concept. Because we can't do without a God. Even if suppose there is no God, we will make something as God. Even if we don't accept any God and we believe that there is no God, we will make money the God. Money will become God. Wealth will become God. One's own intelligence will become God. Because these philosophers who are trying to attack the faith fabric in human mind, they themselves become God. And they say there is no God, no God, no God. But their followers make that person the God himself. Because man cannot really be without some support for faith. So no Bhagwan claiming people themselves become Bhagwan, have become Bhagwan. Anyway, so the Buddhists had to be countered here. And that's why eka-tattvam, the word has come. And I told you the tvam is a suffix. So in Sanskrit you have usages like suvarnatvam, lohatvam, jalatvam, parthivatvam. So also tattvam. Tat means that. Tat means that supreme force. Tat means the supreme being. Tat is Paramatma. Tat is Brahma. Tat is Bhagavan. Tat is Ishvara. So, like Suvarna Suvarnatva, Loha Lohatva, Tat becomes Tattva. So, therefore, ekatattvabhyasa. Now, having dealt with quite some time with the heterodox thought process, let's come to very Bhagavad Gita. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandanam. This is the advice that Bhagavan Sri Krishna has given to Arjuna, who was in oscillating mind. Should I fight the battle or flee from battle? So he was in dual mind. And therefore, Bhagavan Sri Krishna tells him, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandanam. You must have decisive mind. Be decided. Once you know what is good, it should always be embraced. One should be sticking to it. And not this like tossing the football in game of football. We should not be tossing, or we should not be tossed. And that is why this principle has been mentioned here. Now, the stand of these momentarists, they say, what is going to meditate? Mind is going to meditate. What is mind? Mind is fleeting flux. The mind is a flow. There is constant arrival, departure of the mind. Mind stays only for a moment. Next moment, it goes into latency. And previous moment, the mind was not there. So, the mind is a momentary thing. And now, if the mind is momentary, what is the fate of dhyanam? Tell me. Is it not hitting the axe at the root of postulation of Patanjali, the dhyana? So Patanjali is one who is going to postulate dhyana in his yoga, because it is samadhi. Samadhi means it is culmination of dhyana or final state of dhyana. Now that was axed by Bauddhas, that the mind is going to meditate, and if the mind is not itself constant, mind is very, very momentary, how come there can be this dhyana? And they were axing the very Patanjali's philosophy at the root. Therefore, Patanjali had to take this step of refuting them with severest of words, examining them, disproving them, attacking them, disproving them, and reinforcing the position that he had in his mind. And that is why this sutra comes, and you will see that it is primarily of the nature of refuting the Buddhist precepts, Buddhist position. That is why this sutra has come. So you must have historical background here. When Patanjali postulated whatever in his treatise, at that time there was prevalent strong a prima facie view. That's called Purva Paksha. There was a prima facie view, and therefore it was his duty to consider that view of an opponent, because the opponent postulated that the dhyana is going to be done by chitta, and the chitta is momentary thing. If the chitta itself is going to be for one moment, how can you postulate steadfastness? If the chitta, the longevity, the life of chitta is only one moment, and therefore there is a continuous flow of the chitta frames. Chitta is constantly a running belt, and there is arrival frame of chitta and departing frame of chitta, arriving and departing. And the chitta as such is just there for one moment precisely. That's called kshanika vada. And therefore, how can there be a postulation of steadfastness, dhyanam, when what is going to be doing dhyanam itself has only life of a moment? So understand the implication of their philosophies and how it needs to be answered when dhyana is postulated, chitta vritti nirodha is postulated, samadhi is postulated. So Patanjali had to do that. He could not just postulate his position, saying that this is my philosophy, I will say whatever I want to say. If you agree, well and good. If you don't agree, no problem. But the convention in darshanik custom or convention was that you must take the view of the opponent into consideration, analyze it, and if it is going against your postulation, it was your duty to refute it. So it is not that one needs to have quarreling tendency. You are a philosopher, you are a darshanika, you have a postulation. If you have a postulation, don't just postulate. If there are opponent views, you must answer them, you must disprove them. So you have to analyze them, you have to investigate them, their standpoint of view, their point of view and their stand. And then, if you have to postulate, you must refute them. So, as I told you that if you are going to do the japa, Om, 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 every time the mind, the substrate mind, underlying mind is only for just a moment. And then that mind goes away. It is another mind which is doing the second Om. It is another mind which is doing the third Om. It is another mind which is doing the fourth Om. Then why postulate steadfastness? Why postulate ekatattvabhyasa? So in their view, this was not possible. Just because the life of a mind, the chitta, is only one moment. So actually, this postulation is shaken by the view of Buddhists, and therefore it is important to assess their view, investigate their view, and then present arguments and refute. Therefore, these Vainashikas, if you take their standpoint, where the mind is momentary, chitta is momentary, everything is momentary, that means one chitta does a karma and another chitta faces the consequence. Now, this is not done. If you have done something, you must be punished. So if you have done a karma, you must get karma phala. Not only punishment, but you must get the fruit of it, whether sweet or bitter. So if the mind, what is actually doing the karma? The mind is doing karma. Even if your body does the karma, there is mind behind it. And the mind decides to do a karma. But the mind decides, and then it is another mind which is going to execute, and it is another mind which is going to take the consequence of it. So there is a lot of fallacy in their position of the Kshanikavada. The Vainashikas have this philosophy of Kshanikavada. And that was really hitting the postulation of Patanjali at the root, axing it at the very root. And therefore Patanjali had to do this, is to refute the stand of Buddhist. And that's why this sutra has come up. He wants to postulate that there is something called eka-tattva, there is something called tattva, ekatva, and then there is something called abhyasa. That is perseverance, persistence, repetition. So the Vainashikas are being refuted. Kshanikavadins are being refuted in this sutra. So the whole commentary, if you look at it, you will come across this fact that the Buddhists have been really refuted in the commentary. By the commentary we realize it in the sutra. So actually from a momentary standpoint, there is no vikshipta chitta. There is no wandering mind. How can the mind wander when it is only for one moment? What wanders is not one mind, because it is only for a moment. So vikshipta chitta is not accepted. If the vikshipta chitta is not accepted, then also ekagra chitta is also not accepted. It needs to be answered. So you remember that Patanjali had postulated kshipta, vikshipta, muda, kshipta, vikshipta, ekagra, niruddha as chitta bhumis. Now these Vainashikas had such a position that there would be nothing like wandering mind, rambling mind, fluttering mind. If the mind is only for one moment, how can it digrade? There is no scope to digrade. It's a new mind which is coming to a new object or new support. So, if you look at Vyasa's comment, vikshepa pratishedartham eka-tattvavalambanam chittam abhyaset. So this is the purport of sutra. In order that there is no vikshepa, alteration, wavering, rolling stone like condition, vikshepa, obstacles making us victim. Tatpratishedartham eka-tattvavalambanam chittam abhyaset. The chitta must be steadfast. Yasya tu pratyartha niyatam pratyyamatram kshanikam cha chittam tasya sarvameva chittam ekagram nastyeva vikshiptam. Now, if as these Vainashikas postulate that the chitta is momentary, that means the chitta always has one pointedness and concentration. It is always involved. When someone is dead, you can't say that the person is not involved. You don't expect someone to be still involved in an act when even after death. So you don't say the person has digradated. You say person has become dead, or person is dead. You don't say the person has digradated. So if the chitta is going to die next moment, then there is no way that the chitta is not ekagram. It is helplessly ekagra because it cannot digrade, because it is going to live for only one moment. Therefore it can never be vikshipta chitta. It cannot be wandering chitta, because where is the room for it to wander when it's only going to live for one moment? So understand the Buddhist philosopher, their stand. They are called Kshanikavadi Bauddhas, and therefore in their postulation the mind would be always engrossed. Our mind is always stuck to one object for a moment. That you don't call it concentration. The two things don't coexist in our mind. There is one thing at a time. And if the mind is going to be having longevity of one moment, then the mind is ever fastened to an object. If the mind has gone to another object, it is another mind which has gone to another object. And that it has stuck to it. And again, if there is a digression, it is another mind which has taken the support of the another object, yet another object. So the mind will always have concentration, mind is always engaged, mind is always having one thing, according to Vainashikas, because their mind lives for one moment. Its lifespan is one moment. And therefore the ekatattvabhyas becomes absurd, and therefore they were to be answered, and that's how Vyasa tells us how they are being answered. Chitta is kshanikam, for whom Vainashikas, momentaries, and therefore for them there will be no vikshipta chitta. Then where is the point in advising steadfastness and perseverance and ekatattvabhyasa? So the sutra itself is getting detonated by the standpoint of Vainashikas, and therefore they are being answered in this sutra. So very opening statement of Vyasa itself tells us that this is to refute the prevalent philosophical view which was very strongly there, not today but during Patanjali's time, and therefore he refuted. And that's how first time Patanjali is taking that avatar to counter the stands of the heterodox Nastika Buddhists. So let's see how this is being done in the whole commentary on the sutra. There's a long commentary on this sutra. And let's see how Patanjali is first time countering. He is engaging himself in a war of words with an opponent. So far he was just postulating yoga, what yoga is, he was describing yoga. But then a time came when a prima facie view raised the hood, and now therefore it has to be answered, and it is being answered. It was answered by Patanjali, which is expressed in Vyasa's comment. So let us proceed to philosophical argumentative phase, which for the first time comes in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It has come elsewhere, but this is the first time that it has come. Nowhere so far the Buddhists, even the shadow had fallen in what Patanjali was saying. But when Patanjali has postulated Ishvara Pranidhana and whatever up to this 2.31, that needs to be refuted, and therefore he is now taking that aggressive stance to answer, because they were very strong opponents for any orthodox philosophers, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, Vedanta. So it's a unique phase. So far, if you see, first time it has appeared, and let's see what it is. But remainder for next session. Namaskar all of you.